We're back.
We're back.
It's been an amazing day. We both learned so much, right? It's been like
Wisdom.
wisdom.
Down,
Okay, we're now
welcome.
starting episode or session 5. But what were your highlights from the last one?
Oh, so many things. I love the talk about screen time and that
Yeah.
self-regulation.
Yeah.
And just the play and the initiatives that these mothers and parents are taking just to keep the youth young.
And let them play. And also, Krista Tippett's, her piece of advice was about having friends of, oh, we need a mic for you. Having friends of all different ages. And I think that's so valuable. I love that, of just all the wisdom and perspective you can get from different ages.
Right.
And then, of course, this last one was so powerful with Scarlett Lewis, and just talking about the resilience that she experienced after losing her son in Sandy Hook. And that idea, people kept asking her at the funeral, what can we do for you?
Yes.
And when she said, if you can counter every negative thought with one about love.
I mean, that's so powerful.
Oh my gosh.
And everyone can do that.
Everyone can do that. And she was imagining how angry the perpetrator was as a child and his whole life, and how just countering negative, we have so many thoughts a day, and a lot of them are negative about ourselves or other people. And if you can just counter one thought a day with love, like, that's working towards a better world and less school violence and all of that.
I love that. And just the idea that a woman who had so much tragedy had just the compassion to think about,
At that moment.
the compassion to think about the man who actually committed that crime, and to think about how we all have that capacity to forgive, to love, and to have empathy and compassion for others, even in the face of that kind of tragedy.
Yeah.
That was really moving for me.
And I think also, just with all the school violence that keeps happening, taking it back to social emotional learning and really the fundamentals of how do we make a stronger community and a more sense of belonging. So I think that was really powerful. And so I'm just like thanking all the speakers again. They're not right here, but I'm thanking them because I feel so grateful. And so in our next episode, we have resilience again and standing strong, where Mackenzie's going to talk to Dr. Sean Stephenson. And I'm really looking forward to that session. I know she really admires him, and I'm excited for them to be in conversation. So enjoy.
I'm so excited to be interviewing someone that is so incredibly inspirational. I've been looking forward to this interview for a really long time. Sean Stephenson, a speaker, therapist, and author. Sean, I think instead of introducing you, I would actually love for you to introduce yourself and just give the audience maybe a 1 to 2 minute overview of your journey and what's brought you here.
Sure. So most people are intrigued by the beginning of my story, which is I was born into a container with a bone disorder called osteogenesis imperfecta. That's why I'm only about 3 feet tall, and I use a wheelchair to get around. My bones are extremely fragile, so something as simple as sneezing growing up would fracture a rib. A cough might break my collarbone. And with this condition, I fractured over 200 times by the age of 18. And you can imagine being stared at, going through surgeries, spending time in recovery, missing just hundreds of days of school, having to catch up with tutors and studying by myself, spending a lot of time with adults when I was a kid. I lived a totally different life as a child than most could understand. However, I feel like between my family, my friends, and my own internal work, we did all right. And since childhood, I was very grateful to develop a personality and an attitude and a vision that has gone after really big things, achieved them, and continuing to do even bigger things beyond that. So spent time working in the White House with the US president, spent time touring the world, speaking on stages with the Dalai Lama, world leaders, celebrities, billionaires, spent time with some of the biggest names in business and foundation work, making massive impacts on this planet. I have organizations that I'm involved in that reach all around the world. We're working on an orphanage for disabled children, a school in Kenya. We're constantly going after a bigger and bigger reach And whoever said that money can't buy you happiness didn't give enough away.
I love that. So it's very, very, very safe to say that resilience and perseverance would be strong character strengths of yours. I'm interested to hear what you would say to our audience. Is perseverance or resilience something that can be learned, in your opinion?
I don't know if it's something that can be learned. I think it certainly can be picked up by watching somebody who's implementing it, yeah. However, I think it's one of those things that if you don't catch on quickly, you get left behind. So I believe I was resilient and persistent because I didn't have a choice if I wanted to survive, both physically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, financially, socially. If I wanted to keep up with the human race and beyond, go beyond that and become a leader of this planet, I needed to make sure that no matter what was thrown at me, it didn't knock me down and keep me down. You know, I graduated from the school of GBU, get back up. And when you graduate from GBU, nothing can stop you. At the end of the day, you're going to get knocked down thousands, if not millions of times between the day you're born and the day you die. And it doesn't matter that you get knocked down. That's par for the course. It matters if you get back up. And the one skill set that I have stronger than practically anyone I've ever met is my resiliency to get back up. I've made so many mistakes. I've made errors with my friends, my marriage, my finances, my family. I've done a lot of stupid things, things that I would do differently. However, there's one thing I would be most proud to say is the fact that I always get back up, and the only thing that's going to keep me down is death itself, and even death is having a hard time keeping up with me.
And one of my favorite things when I was researching your background and going to your website was you had this video, and the first thing that you said was, "I was born to rid the world of insecurities." And this was one reason why I was so excited to get you on this programming, was because so many of our audience are K-12 students. And so, you know, I think that the messaging of get back up is so incredibly important, especially to our youth. But what would you say to them about ridding them, you know, helping them with their insecurities and where they're at in their life right now?
Sure. So your insecurities, let's just define what an insecurity is. It's the element inside of you that feels like you're not enough. You're not tall enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough, you're not funny enough, you're not thin enough, you're not fast enough, you're not rich enough. Like, whatever it is that you feel you're not enough, that is the insecurity. And when you feel like you were let out of the good experience, like you were dealt a bum hand, that's when the insecurities start to take over. And this is why I've made it a life goal and a mission of mine to rid the world of insecurity. And I do believe I found the cure. The issue is the cure is so simple that most people will overlook it and say, no, that's too simple. But here's what I found. The problems in our life are perplexing. Problems are complicated, they're complex. But solutions are always simple. And the solution I found to ridding the world of insecurity, it's 2 words: self-care. When you take immaculate care of your mind, your body, and your spirit, and you're working on your health, your wealth, and relationships, what happens is you don't get rid of your insecurities. You let them go into a dormant state, almost like they're sleeping or put to rest. And I found anybody that says, oh, well, I got rid of my insecurities, let's put you back in a state where you're overwhelmed physically, overwhelmed financially, emotionally, you're going through heartache. You put somebody under those kinds of stresses, those insecurities are going to creep up, crawl out of your spine, and take over your mind. And this is why I'm a big proponent that you must have impeccable self-care.
What do you think on a grander scale about where we are in the world today with, you know, I think a lot of this has to, underneath it all, has to do with insecurities. What would you say on like a global scale, in your opinion, with that piece of advice?
Sure. Well, globally, let's take human history first. I believe that insecurity is an evolutionary biological element. I believe that it evolved over time. It's not like in 1982, insecurities came out of, you know, pop music. No, it's like this has been a part of the human race for as long as we've looked around at each other and thought, oh, would this person be better to mate with? Would this person be better to keep me safe? Would this person get a bigger hunt to bring home more meat? Would this person be somebody we'd want to be in our tribe and look after us? And so I believe it's been a biological response for a very long time. However, I don't believe it needs to stay a biological response. You know, if you look at certain components like the appendix, there are certain things in the body that we don't really need anymore. They served a function at one point, but the adaptations of life kind of made them obsolete. And I believe that we can get insecurities to be the same way. And as a global human race, I find that all the major social ills that we deal with, from war to violence to I wouldn't say all sickness, but I would say a lot of human challenges that we experience come out of insecurities, even down to some of our psychosomatic illnesses. So I believe that as a human race, if we can clean up our insecurities, we can get rid of a big, massive amount of challenges that exist on our planet.
I completely agree, and that's really eloquently said, and that's kind of a nice segue into another big theme of your work is around surrender, letting go. So of course you have a lot of work around resilience, but can you talk a bit to our audience about the dance between resiliency and surrendering?
Yeah. So it's a dance. You picked a really good word there. And a dance is supposed to be fun, right? And a dance should have some rhythm and movement. A dance should know that sometimes you might get your toe stepped on. Sometimes you might step on a toe. It's not about perfection. It's about the experience of improving the ritual. And I believe that persistence is great, resiliency is great. However, if you continue to hit your head into the wall over and over and over, now you got the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And as some of my mentors have taught me, when you've tried everything that you can think of, and no matter what you do, it just gets worse and worse, that's the time to surrender. And surrender does not mean give up. It means to look up. It means to look into the heavens. It means to look into your creative energy. You know, and some people watching this will believe in a higher power and some won't, and that's okay. But we all know that a bad attitude and demanding with an entitlement attitude never improves our condition. So I believe when we look up, when we get our, you know, the old-fashioned keep your chin up, kid, that means make sure that you're focused on what you want, what you have, and what you like. That's how you proceed and improve your life. If you're constantly looking down at what you don't have, what you don't, or, well, let me put it this way, what you don't want, don't have, and don't like, you're going to be miserable. I've been a therapist for 18 years now, and every client that I've had come to see me, they all were stuck in what I call the FED. Their fears, that's what they don't want, their envies, which is what they don't have, and their dislikes, which is their complaints, what they don't like. And when you're focused on what you don't want, don't have, don't like, it's inevitable you're going to be miserable.
Absolutely, and so I'm guessing that gratitude is a big part of your work.
Yeah, absolutely. I can say that when you are in a space of gratitude, you can't hold on to resentment. You can't hold on to, oh, this isn't fair. No, when you're in gratitude, you're like, what's the gift here? You know, in my office here, behind this camera, is a poster, and it says, the key to success is playing the hand you were dealt like it was the hand you wanted. And that's the key to how I've lived my life. It's why I don't quit. It's why I get back up. It's why I'm able to stare down any obstacle. It's why my fears are afraid of me. It's why my doubts now doubt themselves. It's why I'm really resilient and able to be flexible at making sure that I'm constantly improving. You know, I always tell myself, Abe, always be evolving. When you're in that Abe mindset, always be evolving, you don't feel like a failure when you're making mistakes. You feel like you're making progress, moving forward. You know, I once debated a bunch of scientists on stage at this conference with thousands of people. And I learned something interesting from scientists. And they said evolution is not a staircase that goes up. It's a kaleidoscope. And if you know anything about a kaleidoscope, most kids probably haven't seen one nowadays, but a kaleidoscope is I guess you could almost say it's a toy, that when you turn the front end of the kaleidoscope, these pieces fall into place at the same time that other pieces fall out of place. And as you're evolving, some things will click into place while other things will leave. Some people will show up while other people are going to say goodbye, whether that means they pass on, they move on, you have to leave them because they're no longer in the picture or no longer empowering to you. You have to know that life is not meant to stay the same. And if you are a status quo junkie, comfort zone junkie, you're going to be a miserable human being most of your life.
What's something, like, can you give an example of one of the biggest jumps that you've done that's been outside of your comfort zone?
Yeah. I got married. That was pretty intense. I decided to be with one person for the rest of my life. I separated in business from a partner that I was really close to. I loved, still love to this day, but we were no longer a business fit. And saying goodbye to somebody after working for 24 years with them was very difficult. I felt like, can I do this on my own? What am I doing? Why would I cause this person hurt? But it's, at the end of the day, it was the next step of evolution. Saying goodbye to certain friends that I loved, but they were toxic and they weren't helping me on my mission. They were more holding me back. That was painful. Making leaps in my business, investing large amounts of money into different networking groups. I'm about to join a group. It's going to be $100,000 a year just to be in the group. And it's because I'm being around people that play on a whole nother level, that are out there to do massive things. And while money is by no means the end all of success, it's a component that lets you stretch your creativity, your freedom, and your ability to give.
Well, it goes back to your whole saying around self-care, right? And so you're investing in yourself, and that also means investing in the community that's going to inspire you the most to make the most impact in the world, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because when you're in the environment, this is what I teach all my students and clients, when you're in the environment, you become the environment. So you want to make sure that you're in, when you're in you can't get into a dirty pool and come out clean. It just doesn't work. And so this is why, no matter how much willpower you think you have, you must surround yourself with people that are empowering, that get behind your mission, that believe in you, that are positive and lift you up, and also tell you when you're making mistakes, that aren't just yes people, that also are willing to give you corrective enhancements and at the same time are empowering in the same experience.
If you were to name maybe 2 or 3 character strengths of the community that you would say you should surround yourself with, what would it be? Or is it just so different from person to person and their own needs?
Well, I surround myself with about 22 different mentors. And that doesn't even include my friend-tors, people that are my friends and my mentors.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would say that there's a different set of traits for each of them, as you mentioned. Each one serves a different purpose. I have one mentor that teaches me all about focus and don't get distracted. I have another mentor that makes sure that I'm working on my health, that I'm driven to take care of my vitality through my nutrition, exercise, breathing, diet, all that stuff. I have mentors that are very focused on abundance. Are you giving back? Are you not just hoarding your money, but you're sharing it with the world? You're doing bigger things. I believe that there's so many character traits. One of my personal favorites that I believe in is adaptation, because the only disability is one's refusal to adapt. If you're willing to adapt, you will cease to be disabled no matter what your parking spot says.
That's awesome. I love that. You have so many amazing sayings and things that really like stick into my mind that I'm just going to walk away from this conversation. I'm so inspired. I want to end on this with, Sean, can you give us your best piece of advice?
I would say that you need to trust that life is perfectly unfolding, even when it hurts. You know, when something hurts and you're challenged and you feel like, why am I doing this? Why am I starting this? Why am I getting involved with this? It's important to remember you got to trust the process and that life is unfolding magically as it should. I got a sign on my other wall that says, remember why you started. Because when you remember why you started, whether it's anything, a marriage, a business, a project, a friendship, if you get back to why did you start, you can reignite the flame oftentimes.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sean. I really, really appreciate you taking the time. Please continue to share your message with the world. And thank you again.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Sean Stephenson is such an inspiration and definitely one of my highlights from Character Day. I'm so thankful to have him on board. Really, really excited to be coming up to our next live event from Kansas. We're going to be joining Jennifer Gordon at McClure Elementary School. She is with her elementary students, and they're going to be singing us a song about Character Day that they start off every day with, and she specifically had reached out to me to share with us. So do we have Jennifer on the line? Hello. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello there. Welcome to our house, McClure Elementary in Kansas.
Thank you. We're so excited. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you very much for having us. We're very excited. We want to do our good character chant that we do every morning when we start our day. We're a small school, about 300 students in preschool through 5th grade. So are you ready for us?
I am totally ready. Let's hear this.
All right. Students, here we go. Good.
Woohoo! Excellent. That is so awesome. And I love how many of them there are. That is so just inspiring and energizing. Jennifer, it was a little hard to hear the lyrics. Can you just a little, slower say what the lyrics are?
It goes like this. Good character is our superpower. This we know is true. Good character is our superpower. How about you?
Yes, fabulous. I love that. Who created that chant every day?
It's one of the ones that I tried to make up just so that our students every day begins their day thinking about good character. We have our 6 pillars on the wall. We have 6 pillars in our classroom. Every day the students are exposed to some character trait that we feel is very important for them to learn and to live. So we are really a school that's promoting character here in our school and in our district.
We absolutely love to hear that, and hats off to you on that. Is this your first Character Day, or have you celebrated this a couple times?
Actually, this is our 3rd Character Day.
All right.
We have been doing character education in our school for 5 years. And when I discovered Character Day 3 years ago, I decided we need to at least all gather and celebrate, at least for a few minutes, Character Day, as well as giving our lessons throughout the day in our classrooms.
That is amazing. And tell us a little bit more about your character education programming.
All right. We're using the 6 pillars that's associated with character counts. We have a trainer that comes in at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, that works with our students, our staff, and our parents. We've had an opportunity to really infuse it into our school. We recognize students every month when they exemplify one of the 6 pillars. We try to make sure that we're promoting character all the time. So it's really been a great experience for us, and we feel that it's made a difference and that others are recognizing us for the work that we've done, both with our students and with our staff. And as a result, in 2017, we were recognized as the Kansas School of Character, and we were also recognized as a National School of Character that same year.
Congratulations. That is amazing, amazing thing to be recognized
Oh,
for.
we've lost your audio.
Oh, can you hear me now? All right. Well, looks like we
still
lost
can't hear you.
audio, but Jennifer,
I'm
thank
not
you
sure if
so
it's our
much.
end or
It
your
was
end.
wonderful catching in with Kansas and loved the song. Have a great rest of your Character Day.
Thank you for having us.
So right now, I'm really, really excited to be introducing Caitlin Warren from ClassDojo. She's the community manager at ClassDojo. who has been one of our biggest Character Day partners from the beginning. So Caitlin, you want to come join a seat with me? Hello, wonderful to have you here. How's it going?
So nice to be here. It's going great.
Wonderful. Caitlin actually is from Alaska, but happened to be in town in San Francisco this week. So I said, why not jump on board and come celebrate Character Day with us?
Had to stop by. I couldn't pass it up.
Absolutely, absolutely. So as I was mentioning, we've had a great partnership with ClassDojo. We always offer all of their films and their resources during the big day. And so I wanted to bring Caitlin on because they just came out with a really great new resource called Portfolios. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so ClassDojo is a way for teachers and families and students to communicate and connect, and Portfolios is just like the next step. So students are going to be able to instantly share what they're working on in class, their progress, things they want to celebrate with their teachers, and then as soon as their teachers approve it, then families instantly see it. And it's kind of like we're no longer waiting for parent-teacher conferences to get in the know. It's everybody's on one team and working together and always in the know and supporting that student.
And I just love that. I mean, we're always talking about how to bridge that gap between educators and parents and really bringing the whole community together. And plus, parents are just going to absolutely love this portfolio product, I would think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And students love seeing the feedback from their parents on their portfolio posts because they can see those comments instantly and get that support that, a paper lost in a backpack, you might not get the same feedback and the same support. So
Exactly. And, I know that the growth mindset and the empathy series has been out for a little while and that a lot of educators obviously know about it. But for our viewers that don't, can you talk a little bit about the two series that we always show for the younger kiddos for Character Day? It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, the Big Idea series is amazing. It's our social emotional learning videos along with activities and discussion guides that allow students to really connect with the characters, Mojo and friends, and learn about growth mindset, empathy, perseverance, mindfulness. And it's a great way for teachers to bring social emotional learning into the classroom when there's not exactly a curriculum to support that. And it's totally free.
It's amazing. And so, it's interesting, when Caitlin came in, we were discussing that I think we actually have a kind of a similar role within Character Day and ClassDojo being community builders. And so can you talk a little bit about your favorite highlights of working with all these incredible teachers, especially around social emotional learning?
Yeah, I think working with teachers is this amazing community because these are the most positive people in the world. They're impacting so many different lives and they want to have a positive impact. So to get to create a community around teachers and allow them to collaborate and share ideas and just share support is an amazing thing. And then being able to talk about social emotional learning and to take that learning to the next level for all these teachers is just amazing because all we want to do is really have that positive impact for students, for them to see themselves as these amazing things that they are, that they can grow and learn and there is no limit. So to be able to support teachers and sharing that wisdom with students is amazing.
That's amazing. And so you say, talk to me a little bit about, you mentioned next level. So I'm kind of springing this on you, but what do you think the next level of social emotional learning is within academics?
I think it's going to be about, first, we're teaching students about, growth mindset and empathy and these things, but bringing that home as well. I think that many students hear, growth mindset, you can't do it yet, and they learn it in school and we're supporting them, but allowing families to also hear this is really important. Absolutely. So that way when the student goes home and a parent might say like, oh, I was never good at math, I'm not good at math. Instead, teaching parents
growth mindset.
Have a growth mindset.
Yep.
You also can be, maybe you're not good at math yet,
right?
But modeling that for students and bringing that language home for families so that it's supported in all areas of their lives, whether it's at school, it's at home, or maybe it's at soccer practice.
And it is amazing. I mean, you totally make a great statement where I've watched those growth mindset series, and it's such a great reminder just for adults even. And I find myself getting like wrapped up into the storyline. Who is it? Is it Moji? Is that
Mojo?
Mojo. What really quickly? We're going to end on what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
The best piece of advice I've ever received: take risks. Whether
risks.
it's with friends or trying something new, take those risks.
Wonderful. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on air and joining us today, Caitlin. It was wonderful having you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to have you come out, and then we're going to bring Tiffany in. Tiffany is going to be interviewing Sarah LAPIDO next.
Hello. Oh my gosh. Let me plug in. Wait a sec. Sorry, you want to give me a little plug in? Sawyer often plugs me in. I start like, yeah, and then it's like, oh, hello. Oh my gosh, we've had such a full day. We've been tapping into events in Hong Kong and Mississippi and Texas and Florida and Bulgaria, and we're about to go to Refinery 29 in New York, but before that, I'm super excited. I have to say we had a lot of signups in Nigeria, which was very exciting to us. And it's actually where my husband was born. And one of my dear friends, Vendela, was like, well, you have to, do you know the work of Sarah Ladipo MANYIKA? And I was like, no. And then I had so much fun, ordered her books, and the more I read about her, she's a Nigerian British writer. I was just so excited that I'm getting to interview her right now. So do we have her live? Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Can you hear me
So
okay?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, great. Let's
Excellent.
turn you a little louder. Yeah, I love just learning more about you and your work. And, you know, we've had all these different speakers today talking about different aspects of character development. And of course, sometimes when I say, oh, I do something called Character Day and people know I'm a filmmaker, they think, do I mean like character development as in a movie? And I'm always like, no, the character development in all of us. And I was thinking a lot about your writing and a lot about empathy because, you know, as a filmmaker, I think that's the chance to walk in someone else's shoes, show that perspective. And as a writer, that's even a deeper way to really give people other people's perspectives. So can you talk about just empathy in terms of writing and how you approach that?
Yeah, I think, first of all, thank you so much. It's such a, I'm so delighted to be part of Character Day. And to be listening to everyone else's stories, and it's fantastic. Empathy and writing, I think for me, both as a writer and as a reader, as you alluded to, I really like to be able to step into the shoes of other characters. So I'm really compelled, drawn to stories where I feel that these are real characters and they feel authentic. And as a writer, I'm trying to do that as well. And I can't just pretend to know a character. I can't just sort of skate on the surface. I have to dig deep and imagine myself as a character. So the last book that I wrote, for example, my character is almost 75. I'm not quite there yet. So imagining what it would be like to be in an older body, what it would be like to have the world seeing me as an older person. And yeah, this is what we do as creators. It's what we do as writers, trying to inhabit other people's stories, other people's lives. And I think it's also one of the things as a reader, when I'm interested in learning about other people's lives, other people's stories, I want to be compelled by what I read.
Absolutely. I mean, that is like a great book when you really feel like you're inside the eyes of someone experiencing the world. And I wonder if you feel like as a writer, the more you've written, that it's strengthened your sense of like really trying to understand somebody else's point of view. And what's your process for that? Are you really thinking about it yourself? Are you interviewing people? And I know so much of writing is observations, but tell us about your process for trying to step into someone's shoes.
I think my process involves a lot of observation. So I always loved the idea of going into a cafe, that sort of stereotypical idea that a writer can go in a cafe or some wonderful space and start writing. I can't, because I'm constantly listening, observing, watching, and that sort of helps to feed my imagination. It helps me think about stories. So, so that's part of my process. It's funny, actually. I'm going to tell you a story, as I'm a storyteller. Tell you a
Great.
story that happened an hour ago, as I was thinking about Character Day, and I was thinking, what if I'm asked, what am I thinking about? What do I think is important in the world, as other people have been asked? And I was thinking of kindness, and I was thinking about the importance of listening deeply. And that's another thing I try and do with my writing, to inform my writing. And as I'm thinking this, I had to go out, and I'm coming home, I'm walking home, and I meet someone who looks very down and out and who tells me he's homeless, and he asks for $1. And I'm like, well, this might be your lucky day, because this is Character Day. And I'm thinking about kindness, and I'm thinking about listening deeply to others. And so I can't be a hypocrite. And so I look in my bag and I say, well, he's asked me for $1, and I'll give you all that I have, which is much more than $1. Wow. And so he takes the money from me. He looks at it and he sees that it's much more than $1. He stuffs it in his pocket, and then he starts preaching, and he starts quoting scripture. I'm a pastor's daughter, so I know quite a lot of scripture, and he's telling me about how important it is to love thy neighbor as you love yourself. And I'm finding myself getting irritated, and I'm finding myself thinking, you can at least thank me for the money that I gave to you. But then I have this sort of, I step back from myself, and I think, Sarah, what is kindness? And kindness is not giving to people expecting them to say thank you. What is deep listening? So I had to check myself, someone who thinks that I observe people, that I listen closely, I wasn't really doing that. So yes,
I appreciate your candor in that, because I'm sure we all have stories like that where you do something and you want it to be acknowledged. And I don't know, did you hear my interview with Krista Tippett?
I didn't.
She talks about, she says kindness is much more muscular than you think, which I love that combination of words, that kindness is muscular, because it actually takes more work. It seems like, the way she says it, it seems like a very kind of squishy light word, but it's much more muscular. And that story kind of embodies it to me. It's like, there's the act of doing it, and then it's what are you expecting in return? And I think what I have found so valuable about learning the different character strengths and the different things you can do to work on them is it's given me a language. Like, just the fact that you were like, kindness, and then do I need acknowledgement? It's just like to be able to have the words to break it down. And I feel like when I was younger, that lexicon of character and emotions just wasn't there for us. So now when we're tapping into events all over the globe and they're all breaking down these words, it helps you look at them, work on the ones you want to work on yourself, catch yourself. So I think that's a great story of just that filter in our own heads, the prefrontal cortex that is between the thinking and the emotion. Like, I'm going to do an act of kindness, and yeah, it's all really interesting. And I think, the gift that you provide to so many people is really letting them deeply experience empathy. And I think in our society, people aren't deeply experiencing. I mean, I think movie theaters, somebody's seated in a chair for an hour and a half and a book that really sweeps you into another world and another perspective. So it feels like as humans, we absolutely need literature and experiences to do that. And so, oh, go ahead.
I think so. I was just going to add that, I think storytelling and fiction and imagination, these are things that distinguish us as a species. So from the beginning of time, we've told stories. So when I talk about literature, I'm including books that I write, but I'm also just including the way that we tell people stories, or even stories told through film, other vehicles.
I like widening that word. I like that you just made literature become much bigger in my mind. Thank you.
well, it is. I mean, oral storytelling, we think of Homer and, the Odyssey, Iliad, passed down, not necessarily through writing, but through telling. So that's just as important in many cultures and in all cultures at some point in time.
You know, go ahead.
No, I think it's very central to who we are as humans, the importance of telling stories and, you know, what that comes with, you know, whether that's establishing empathy and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I was just reading about the stories we tell in our families, that often, you know, how we frame our stories in our family, there's, you know, you're trying to teach, like whether you say, well, my grandfather escaped from Odessa in a hay truck. Well, that's a story of resilience that we're sharing with our children. And what are the stories, you know, it's interesting to think about the stories we tell about our family and what strength are they illuminating for the next generation. So we've been asking everyone all day. It's been my favorite. You know, every year we ask a question, and this one is, I think, my favorite because it's, what's the best piece of advice that you were given or that resonated with you? And I'd love for you to share that because I loved what I heard. So could you share that with us?
Well, I think the problem with writers, or maybe I'll just say it about myself, is that there are so many pieces of advice that I feel I could share, or so many things that have really touched me. Yeah. So I think I'll share two, if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
One has to do with writing. So Toni Morrison, great writer, Nobel laureate, said at some point, and I'll paraphrase her because I don't think I'm quoting exactly, that if there's a story that you want to read and you cannot find, then write it yourself. And so I think about that a lot with my art as I'm trying to write stories, to follow that passion, to write those stories that really motivates me, stories that I feel haven't been written, or it's really stories that I really want to read, and that pushes me towards writing, both writing fiction and nonfiction. So that's sort of artistic inspiration. In terms of life, I think at the point in which I am in my life right now, I've been thinking a lot about failure and how we learn from our mistakes. So learning not to be so hard on myself and learning that it's important to fail. And this is how we learn. And I'll share one more thing, which maybe I shouldn't, but, you know, all along in my life, when I look back, I see that at points at which I didn't succeed, I've often grown the most. I failed my English literature A-level. And yes, I know it's terrible. And yet I somehow managed to get a PhD and write books. So, you know, you can fail English literature, I guess is what I'm saying, and still write.
I love both of those examples. Yes, to write the story that you want to read that's not out there. I think about that with films too, and it's such a great thing to guide you because you're the only person with your combination of experience and history, so everyone has a unique voice that needs to, and a story that needs to be told, and a perspective that isn't out there, so I love that. And then, yes, failure, yes, it only becomes, it's so funny how it's become like in the ether, like failure, you learn from failure, but when you really look at your life, like you said, those were the moments, these were these touchstone moments where this like huge flowering happened from a hardship, when you felt really like a loser and that you would let everyone down, and then something flowers from it. So that's a beautiful two pieces of wisdom you can share. I really appreciate it. I hope we get to meet in person someday. We're both in the city, San Francisco City.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining us. And after Character Day, it's like my reward. I have ordered your work. I'm very excited. So
thank you. Can I just add one more thing?
Yeah.
So this is the wordsmith in me as a writer.
Yeah.
So when I had that it was Character Day, I had to look up the definition of character. I mean, I know what character means, but I was interested in the origins of the word. And so the origins, as I'm sure you know, go back to the Old French caractère, but they go further back to Greek. Character and the word in Greek, Old Greek, I guess, referred to a stamp, so an individual or an impression. And so that was really interesting for me to think about. Our characters as individuals were all unique individual stamps, characters. Yeah.
I love that. You know, actually, when I first read that, I felt like it sounded like it was too much in stone. like you had this imprint. And what I've learned about character is that you can constantly evolve and work on yourself, like the more you understand it. But actually hearing your definition of it as that we're all these unique DNA stamps of life and epigenetics and experiences it's a much better way for me to think about it, because it felt too locked before. But I much prefer it that we all have this unique character stamp on our perspective, on our viewpoint. That's really beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us, and I'm super happy that we've met, and I'm now going over here. Thank you. We're going back to, let's see, who are we going? I'm bringing on Sawyer. God, she's so great. Okay, I'm super excited to learn more about her work.
You ready?
Yeah, Sawyer.
All right, that was really inspiring. I like that.
I know, I love what she said about character. Remember, like when we first
Absolutely.
heard that, we're like, oh, but that's not what it is.
I love, yeah, the history, the derivation of all those terms, and
Yeah, and different the way people interpret them.
and looking at character as we talk about it in literature and films and everything, and character as we're talking about today, and they're
Yeah.
weaving all together. Well, this is a treat.
Where are we having a conversation?
I am interviewing you.
Oh my goodness!
This
wow.
is actually the first time I think I've ever
Yeah.
interviewed you, and we're talking about your tech Shabbats.
Yeah.
And what is super exciting is that we've been talking about tech Shabbats since you've been doing it for 10 years, because we've been working together for. I remember when you started doing them.
Yeah.
And
did you notice a difference from before and after?
That's a great question. Yeah, yes. I mean, we've been on this journey of growing in so many different ways throughout, but I think the technology Shabbats are the epitome or the manifestation or the perfect exemplary model of so many different things
that we've worked on. Yeah.
And specifically what you've done in your life, right? So I love that it brings in your Jewish history that you've wrestled with, in so many different
I've wrestled
ways
with,
through your life, and you're owning it and doing this beautiful ritual and practice and bringing it to your family. It brings your love and relationship to technology.
Yes, I do. I love hate it.
And ultimately, the grand journey that you're on to being the best person you can and being that with your family.
Yeah, and so, well, first, for anyone that doesn't know, so we, on Friday nights, we light the candles for Shabbat, and we have people over, and we turn off all screens for a day.
That's what I was even going to take a step back. So again, a lot of people know about these technology Shabbats, and they're truly inspiring, and I think that people would love to hear literally the logistics.
Oh, the logistics.
So that's what you were just going into. But I want a quick snapshot of the whole
Oh,
24 hours,
there's
because I think there's some mystery there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, stepping back even further is been so immersed in technology. I love it, and my husband Ken and he's a professor of robotics. We're always experimenting with it, but it was taking over. This was right around when the iPhone first came out, and everyone suddenly got so addicted to the screens. And then my father got very sick, and he died. And after that, it was like, what's the meaning of life? What are we here for? We need to be with people we love instead of on screens, and it really made us rethink how we wanted to live. And we started doing the National Day of Unplugging had just started that first year, and we did it, and it was so great. We've done it every year since.
Which is essentially a technology Shabbat once a year that a lot of people join in.
The National Day of Unplugging, is once a year, but we did it that first time with them, and we actually made a film from that. And then we've done it every week since, barring a handful of weekends each year where we're traveling or something. But the logistics are Friday, I print out the schedule. So, we've done it with 2 kids in soccer. Lots of people want to know that. How do you find your way? I'm like, how did we find our way before the interweb? I print out the schedule, and then, we just have the most beautiful day. We have friends over. We go into nature. I journal. I read. We do art projects. We just have the most incredible day, and it makes what's the one day of the week you want to feel longer is Saturday, and it makes your one day off feel like 4 days in one. And I'm writing a book about it now that we've been doing it so long, and you and I have made so many films that have explored. I feel so much more productive, so much more creative, so much happier, and so it keeps getting deeper the longer that we've done it. So I have a book coming out next year. I'm writing it. I'm really excited, and we're doing a retreat in Santa Cruz at this new retreat center called 1440. I've never done a
Which
retreat.
is 1440 is
The amount of minutes you have in your day.
Love that.
Which I
So
love.
how do you want to spend those minutes? How do you want to spend your life?
And so I'm doing the retreat with Ken, my husband, and Sydney Mintz, the rabbi who we interviewed, and our kids, because we have a 15-year-old daughter, Odessa, and a 9-year-old Bluma who have grown up with it. They have all these interesting perspectives on it. And as the longer we've done it, society's gotten more crazy with the screens everywhere and kids younger and younger getting them. So
you really started around when Bluma was born.
yeah, so it's it's almost been 10 years. But thinking about Character Day, it is the day I think about character every week.
Right.
On Saturday, I do a lot of journaling and thinking, and I think about life and what's going on in the world and my kids and Ken, and I don't know, I do all my character thinking.
It's your character thinking day.
It's my character weekend.
So I'm coming from a place of in my home we've been really talking about doing it, and
got a new baby and
and so our kids are 2, almost 3 in a couple weeks and just born, and so you've always said to start as young as possible, which makes sense. And we're really thinking about doing it, and so we really do go through all the logistics. So then you turn off all your screens. You have a nice dinner, because what I think one of the things
it's a fun night. It's like you invite.
You have a ritual.
We have a ritual. Okay, we make challah. Let's go back even further.
Yeah.
We make challah with the kids.
It's a whole thing. I want to hear about it.
Okay.
So we can go easily into yes, it makes you grateful.
Okay. The logistics are like Friday morning. The kids and we make a yummy challah. There's nothing more fun than making challah with your kids. It's like sticking your hands in
before school.
Before school, it's like 7:15. We throw the yeast in, the flour. We're smushing. It's like Play-Doh. It's so much fun.
And you don't have to be Jewish to do this.
No. I mean, I'm not a religious. I'm like agnostic. So this is not a religious. I think it's the best gift of the Jews, but anyone can do this.
I would agree.
So
I'm not Jewish.
It's kind of Jewish.
Yeah.
Through osmosis and working together, Jewish.
Yes.
And then, Friday, we always have people over, family or friends. We make a beautiful table. We love to cook. We do cook a meal. People come over and the screens go off, and it's like super fun night. We all take a turn around the table speaking about the week.
Do you feel like a...
Yeah. Well, I have a Sharpie. I don't even have my Sharpie here, but I normally have a piece of paper and a Sharpie on the counter. For the first hour and a half, I'm like, I need to call Sawyer about and I just write it down. It's like I'm knocking my head out of all the to-do lists.
Shake it out.
And then after an hour, I feel totally set free. And
it's
I
all
have
written down in ink.
It's written in ink and a Sharpie.
It'll be there tomorrow evening.
Yes, but I know it's there. But then soon I go into this other mode that's very much just like this beautiful, different. Like your airplane mode on your phone. I go into the Shabbat mode where I'm just present. I'm not worried about being dinged. I'm not distracted.
Do you feel a physical shift?
I do, as I feel very present with people. I laugh more. I mean, I laugh so much on Friday nights. Like my kids I have a belly laugh, usually crying, and that never happens during the week. It always happens on Friday nights because I'm so relaxed. And then Saturday, I sleep the best because I'm not using the phone to wake up or check the stressful news, none of that. And then Saturday, Ken and I both write in this appreciation journal of little moments from the week. Then the kids eventually wake up and we have a great day. And then 5
So that's
p.m.
a little Saturday morning ritual.
We do it, before the kids get up. And then
Do you do rituals during dinner or anything on Fridays?
Oh, we have rituals during dinner, yes. Yeah. Everyone has to go around. Our youngest starts it, say their name, say what they're grateful for. And something that happened that week that they either learned that was great or they want to let go of, or something they're looking forward to next week. So it's all about a week. Because with the Jews, I think the great invention of Shabbat is giving a beginning and end to a period of time. So you can kind of assess it and then have a break and then start anew.
I think that framework is really fundamental to the whole idea of it. Because, we all have become accustomed to having a week, or many of us have become accustomed to having a week and a weekend. So that's a simple framework.
Yeah.
But there's something about that moment that you're shutting down, the rituals that you enter into as a family together, that sets the tone for an expected period of time. It's a very
it's very finite, and I should say we're talking a lot about families, but Ken used to do it as a single grad student living in Israel, and he loved it. So it was all about, for him, he was working so hard, and then on Friday night, all of Israel shut down, so he'd be like, okay, I'm going to paint, I'm going to read, and he was on his own there. So I think it's really for anyone. I think it's really beautiful as a family, but it can be for if you're single, if you're in a relationship. it's just saying, you know what, I value being present. That's what you're saying. I value actually not being distracted by the, we're so responsive to the world around us right now, especially the stressful times we're living in. I feel like we're just in this reactive society, and we've lost this day of reflection. Every religion, churches, temples, mosques had one day of a weekend to reflect and listen to someone speak about something important and just think. We've lost that day of reflection. And it's not like I go to temple on Shabbat, but I definitely use it as a time to think.
Definitely. Well, and I want to ask a little bit more about that in terms of, because I know you've been doing so much research around the book.
I know.
But first, I just wanted to jump to, it was reminding me of what Angela Duckworth was talking about earlier around practice.
Yeah.
Quality versus quantity.
Yeah.
So instead of sort of taking this platitude or, really large statement of saying, I'm going to be more present all the time. Okay, we would all love to say that, right?
Not very real.
Finding a finite period that is on a repetition cycle.
And it is the practice of it that's been meaningful.
And it is a practice.
It's a practice.
And that's all quality.
Yeah.
That 24 hours, everything that you're working on around those ideas and those character strengths and everything is totally focused for 100% quality.
Yes.
During that time, as opposed to a longer quantity that isn't going to have.
That's exactly
Sort
right.
of
like even
impact.
like I think when people say, "Oh,"
I'm not saying don't be present all the time.
No, but it's just not realistic in the world. I mean, we're all using technology. I'm not saying, and I love technology. I love feeling very tapped into the network. This Global Day is a perfect example of what I love about it. What I don't love about it is the reactiveness and responsiveness, and just a lot of the stress and distraction where I'm trying to focus, and just you're responding to everyone but yourself. I even like not being available to the world for a day.
I think that's huge.
I mean, it's like, there's some people in my family like, oh, I wish I could talk to you on that day. And it's just, and I love them. I'll use my landline if I want to connect with my family.
Okay, that was one of my logistics questions. So
yeah, you have to get a landline. Let me tell you, you got to get a landline. You got to get a clock and a watch and a printer. Because you have to print out the schedule, print out your phone list, which you should have anyways in your wallet, because I dropped my phone in the toilet on the way to an international trip, and I couldn't remember any numbers except Sawyer's and Ken's, and I couldn't get in touch with either of them. Yeah, so you have to get some, and a landline is good for emergencies, a printer to print out your schedule, a clock so you know what time it is.
Do you use the maps in your car or anything?
Sometimes we do, but I like to just print out the schedule, but if we're really lost, we'll use it. I mean, we're not like crazy. It's like if we're lost in the hills, we're like, okay.
Right.
But
what about photos on your phone?
Okay, that's a good question. We got an old camera.
I'm coming from a place of really trying to figure out how to
For a while, we got a turntable, and we were using that. It was really fun to go to record stores again. Then we've been using Alexa. Well, it's interesting about Alexa because to me,
you're creating your own rules around this.
We are, and we are saying like music is beautiful. So if you say Alexa, play Billie Holiday, you're not on a screen getting distracted by some text. It just starts playing. So in our mind, that's okay. But we still listen to the record player. But photos, I'm much less apt to pull out my phone. You know how much I document. If there's a really good shot, I'll say, Ken, can you take a picture of that? He's like my Shabbos koi. That's a term of like somebody else that does the technology for you. But I try to really like this is just a moment. It's going to happen. I was thinking about getting a Polaroid camera for Shabbats because there's so many fun people around the table, and I have no documentation
it's a whole
of
art
that.
project right there.
Right, just like the Polaroids of the Shabbat. I love the sound of the Polaroid, and
because I think, and it goes back to that, it's really an intentional framework because there are a lot of weekend days where I don't know where my phone is even. It's not on me, but I'm not putting myself into a zone that is intentionally doing that. And I think there's a really big difference there.
Well, there's a Jewish philosopher that calls it a temple in time, which I love. It's like you are in this protected space, and everyone you're with knows it, and it feels special. And it really is like, I think so much of parenting is about modeling behavior, and you're saying, we really value being together without the screens. And as your kids get older, you'll find it's like, oh, get off that. Everyone's trying to get somebody off of something. And for one day, there's no discussion because it's like not going to happen. And you're doing something unusual together, which is kind of wonderful.
Bonding.
Yeah, it's bonding.
Ways, so you've been doing all this research for your book.
Yes,
which is very exciting. And so tell us a little bit about history, both in Judaism and in other cultures, because this is, again, as you've been saying, this is not a new idea. This has been around in so many different iterations.
Right. I mean, it's interesting, the whole kind of concept of days off. That's why I've been really interested. Okay, this was one of the most interesting facts I learned, is that the United States was kind of founded because the Puritans felt like their Shabbat was getting profaned in Europe, and they wanted a place where they could have a more pure Shabbat, which is crazy. So I was like, wow. And you know, the whole separation of church and state hadn't actually happened that much then. It was still being worked out.
We can go way into that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's,
Mhm.
but I just, the idea that every culture, I mean, even the unions, which, you know, Kyra, your wife is involved with, there was a period where workers didn't have weekends. And
yeah, it was a huge part of the labor movement.
Right, and then
establishing set boundaries
around work and play. And what's happened with all the technology is just blurred everything. Where you know, you can get a work email on the weekend that can ruin your whole weekend. And I tried to, like, on last Shabbat, we tried, and then right before I shut down, I checked one email that was like, oh, I wish I hadn't seen that. No, but
well, it sets the tone for your night or your weekend.
Yeah, I think it's just setting boundaries and protecting space to be present. And we're going to talk all about that at this workshop. I'm so excited to kind of go deep into the history, the practice. We have a whole weekend in Santa Cruz, kind of going deep on all of these ideas that I'm furiously getting down in this book. I'm having so much fun writing because it's a lot of history. It's a lot of what we've explored in the movies. It's a lot about character.
Well, so what are the biggest lessons? I mean, I've heard a few over the years of, you know, one of the surprises is the surprise lessons being that you rediscover how much you do love technology.
Yeah.
So there's these.
Oh yeah, at the end of the Shabbat. No, that's great. So Friday night, and it starts, and then it goes to Saturday night at 5, which is like an arbitrary number. And what's so great is that we're psyched to go on our date night. That's when we go out. And the kids are psyched to go back on technology. But the biggest thing is that you reappreciate technology all over again. So, you know, I think we forget how miraculous it is that we can do this global day. Or I can think of you and text you, or I can look something up, or there's so many things we can do online. So I think it also helps you appreciate that. I feel much more creative. My most creative day is Sunday. I just have so many ideas. I feel like it replenishes my creative side. And I feel like ultimately it makes me more productive because I feel so rested. I'm like, every weekend I'm like, it feels like a 10-day vacation. I'm like, I'm so relaxed. And, you know, a lot of people say to us, how do you guys do what you do? I get asked. I don't know. Do you get asked that a lot?
In different ways, but
I feel
not
like
probably
question,
not as much as you now.
well,
you and Ken, I mean, yeah,
how do you
together.
guys do what you do? And I'm like, I mean, as I get older, I'm always trying to work less, actually, but work smarter. And so I feel like the Tech Shabbats is, I can see my level of productivity just jump after having that real true time off on the weekends with my family and myself.
I mean, you asked at the beginning if I've seen his change. Of course I have. I mean, it's a huge, profound change. And I think even though I'm not doing it, the ripple is already there in my life too. Yeah. I think it's changed our work culture over time.
Oh yeah, like on the weekends before that I would work on the weekends, and that just doesn't happen anymore.
That expectation is clear, and there's boundaries that are just and of course, you know, sometimes we know that it's going to happen, that we have to connect over the weekend or whatever, and we do, and you just, but it's an interesting level of human respect almost, in terms of like so much of our boundaries are about respect and about understanding our own needs and
self-care. I was thinking about Dr. Sean Stephenson when he said the biggest piece of it, or resilience, is self-care. Like if we take care of ourselves, we can take care of others better. And so if you're saying, I love being on and available to my family and the world all the time, but one day I don't want to be on. I don't want to be accessible to the news and the stress and all the dings and pings and texts. And like, I've turned all the notifications off on my phone, which was last year, which was kind of a big deal for me because it's only when I want to go in. But still, I just, it's self-care. And that term is such a fun, I don't know why. I still have an issue with that term for some reason because it sounds self-indulgent, but it's not.
Right.
It's not. I think that's what Sean was talking about. It's not self-indulgent. It's the most fundamental thing. It's like the oxygen mask on yourself before others. You have to take care of yourself. And we're living in such a 24/7
Well, it's a both
society.
all the time.
Yes.
It's a both all the time.
Take care of yourself, and that'll help you take care of those around you. And it was even, I think, Renee's advice from her grandmother. You take care of you, and then you can take care of me and the we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What other surprises? Like real deep, or perhaps how has the practice evolved over, 10 years in? Did you think you were going to be doing it for 10 years?
I didn't know. It's miraculous to do. Yeah. It surprises me that, like, wow, it's something that's fully integrated into our lives. It's like the best part of our family foundation. So yeah, that surprised me actually that we've been doing it. That's why I think I needed to write a book. I was like, well, I need to share everything I've learned. And it keeps getting more interesting, so I can't wait for 20.
What have you learned about yourself?
That I have a bigger introvert side of myself. I think I think probably people see me here like, you know, But I have a side that I like to be alone also, and it's important so I can be there for my family and my friends. So that surprised me, and I learned that through the tech Shabbats.
That is interesting. Keep going. What else did you learn? I think that's I've actually always thought that you and I are very similar in terms of our introvert and extrovert.
Yeah, like there's both
needs
there. And
you know, we all have different combinations of those things. But
yeah, and I think that does change when you get older too. On really I mean, you're so in it right now with your kids needing you so much
That's
right
true.
now. Kids still need you all the time in different ways, but the actual physical demand of having a baby and a 2-year, you know, it's a lot. You should do it. Will you try to do it?
We're gonna try to do it. We've got maybe Kyra's listening right now. We've been working on it for a little while, and we've got some new friends that are really excited. I've been sort of
to try it,
and you know, we'll see. But it's an adjustment. Of course, Saturday mornings we wake up and we're texting our friends, be like, okay, which playground should we go to?
Yeah, you have to.
And,
this is the thing.
Lots of logistics.
You do make the plan on Friday, but you know what? Everyone gets used to that.
Right.
Like my friends are
there's a learning curve.
Yeah, you have to let people know, and then like Friday afternoon, you're like, let's make our plan because you know I'm going to be offline. And we have lots of plans, but we just have to do it on Friday.
Right.
It's an adjustment.
So, do you have friends that have started to do it?
Oh yeah, I do, and I also have a lot of people online that have seen the Tech Shabbat film or see me talk. And every Friday night, if those of you that follow me on Twitter, I do one last tweet before. Not every time, but I'll show a sunset. I'll just grab one off the internet. Sometimes it's like in some other country. Who knows? It's a different setting. I'm like, sunset isn't happening now.
Universal.
I'm like, see you on the other side. I'm about to unplug with my family for my tech Shabbat. It's holding myself accountable too.
Right.
By just doing that, I can't be on Twitter because I'm like, it's part of my own self-regulation. And there's so many people that then will like, I started doing this when I heard you lecture like 7 years ago about it. It's been when I hear it's the best thing they've done, it makes me so happy. So there's a lot of people online that I hear about also I don't know in person.
That's an interesting aspect of it, is that feedback cycle.
Yes.
And I wonder if you were less of a public person in terms of your films and now your book coming out and lectures and you've really shared this with the world as this beautiful practice that has changed you so much and has really helped your family and all this kind of stuff. And if that weren't the case, I wonder if it would be different at all.
For someone that is
maybe not.
Well,
but that feedback cycle is interesting.
Well, it's
right?
kind of that Musar practice, accountability. So whoever's going to try to do this, I think telling your friends and family is a really key part of it. Because you're like, I'm doing this. You know, it's like if you're like, I want to start running. I'm going to prepare for a marathon. I'm telling you all. Like, it helps hold you accountable. So I think wherever you are, to tell your people closest to you, and make kind of a ritual of it, of signing off, it kind of helps.
Right.
Because
I think that ritual in general, the more I've been thinking about it, is a really, as I've said before, is a really critical part. So having the ritual of how you sign off, making that.
Yeah, there's a lot of rituals around.
Some kind of accountability, whether it's on social media or in a film or in a book or whatever, or to your mom or whomever it is, your best friend. Have some sort of accountability there around a ritual of beginning and a ritual of ending. Yeah. You also all really love your ending.
We love our ending, yeah.
And then introducing, whether it's more traditional, I think the ideas around gratitude of what you've been grateful for the week and all those sorts of things are really deeply immersed in Jewish culture, which is beautiful. Yeah. And anybody can use those things, but you could have whatever it is that you want to just
and make your own. Yeah, and like make a ritual. And I go into a lot of this in the book, the kind of specifics that we're all laying out, and the importance of ritual as a family, as a culture,
any group.
Any group. It's so great. And I'm just having the book's not coming out until next year, but just going deep on each of the. I feel like it's the way when we make a film. It gives us the opportunity to go really deep into the history and really deep into the neuroscience and really deep into ritual. Like all my favorite subjects basically are about. I was telling like every film we've ever made or thing we've ever thought is like through this lens of this tech Shabbat is just.
It is. It really is all these different worlds coming together. And then, a couple more thoughts that I may have just lost. But that's okay. Go ahead.
Well, no. I'm wondering.
Are we wrapping?
We're wrapping. We're wrapping. I mean, I hope you guys all come to the retreat, 1440, November 30th. You go to the 1440
Santa Cruz Mountains.
Yeah, and
beautiful
then
space.
We're gonna.
And then we'll keep you posted on the book coming out.
Yeah, exciting.
Very exciting.
Cool. And let's see what is happening next. Are we having a break? We're having a break.
And then we're going to be going live to New York City.
Refinery 29.
Refinery 29 is doing a fantastic event.
Yes, we
the
love
whole
them.
company's involved and invited and talking about all their strengths and some really incredible, I think, speakers and comedians. Maybe.
And then, yeah, they always have great things. And then we're going to do a close, and maybe Renee might do a special something, which I'm excited about. So you have to tune into the next session. Okay, see you soon.
Okay.